His birthday's today. Happy birthday to Rick. It's good to see everyone here this morning. We are in Philippians today. We're in Philippians. We'd started there last week in Philippians. We'd gotten down. Let's start there with... Let's start with verse 18. And that'll begin the thought of where we're at. What then? Only that I in every way, whether in pretense or in truth, Christ is proclaimed, and in all this I rejoice. Yes, I will rejoice, for I know that this will turn out for my deliverance through your prayers and the provision of the Spirit of Jesus Christ, according to my earnest expectation and hope that I will not be put to shame in anything, but that in all boldness Christ will even now, as always, be exalted in my body, whether by life or by death. You have to remember, where is Paul at this time? Where is Paul at this time? When he's writing this letter. He's in prison. He's in prison. So, when he has this attitude of whatever it may be, as long as the Lord is exalted, that's what we want. That's what I want. Whether by life or by death, he'll be exalted in my body. So when you hear something like that, what comes to your mind? How does Paul feel about God? How does Paul feel about Christ? Have you ever stopped and thought about that? When I read that, I thought, Christ is first in his life. It is first in his life. Whatever it comes, death or I live, I want the Lord to be exalted. So Christ is first in Paul's life. What kind of example should that be for us? You think about it in that aspect.
It's got to be first.
Yeah.
Hey, Phil, he met with Christ, and Christ straightened him out, put him on the right journey.
That's right. That's right.
Right.
This is one of the most well-known verses. The next verse, verse 21, that we know. For me, this is Paul talking, to live is Christ, and to die is gain. Let me continue the thought. But if I am to live on in the flesh, this will mean fruitful labor for me. I do not know which to choose, but I am hard pressed for both directions, having a desire to depart and to be with Christ, for that is very much better. Yet to remain in the flesh is more necessary for your sake. What's Paul saying there? We've heard this verse time and time again. What's he saying?
He's saying, personally, death, because then he goes to heaven and he's going to be with God. But he feels like he knows his work isn't finished here on earth yet. So whichever God has in mind.
He's kind of torn in between, if you stop and think about it.
Definitely.
If I stay here, I can spread the word more.
Because he also knows with that is
Comes-
coming, especially in his case, more torture, and I can see him sitting there thinking, okay, this has already happened to me. What's going to happen next? If I'm to stay here.
But you stop and think about this when he talks about there in verse 22, but if I am to live on in the flesh, this will mean what? Fruitful labor for me. Fruitful labor. Not for me just to keep on living. He's aiming to do some good while he's here. Yeah, he's not. Yeah. So many times we look, oh man, I dread to do this, I do that. How many of us have done that? I know I'm not the only one. You just dread it. You know what you got to do, but you just dread to do it. Paul's not that way.
I find it interesting
Yeah.
that he says, I do not know which to choose. How is it his choice?
Well,
Is what I'm wondering. I mean, had it be something to do with the strength of his mind and his
it
thoughts?
could be. It could be.
And where he focuses his faith?
Yeah, because we know as far as his life has, concerned, that's kind of out of his hands at this point. Do what? But he's still in prison. I mean, he's kind of looking at some bleak things here.
Well, he's human. I think he's
Oh,
looking
yeah.
at that side of it, because like I said, he knows if he stays on this earth, that what's coming because of the time period that he's living in and everything. And so, and I think too, the mental state, because doctors will readily tell you your mental state within an illness, it's not gonna necessarily, but it'll make a difference.
It
If-
makes a
If
difference.
it's positive,
That's
you've got
true.
a lot better chance of quicker
That's true.
recovery. If it's negative,
Of course, he also understood that if he didn't go on to Christ, it would be so much better. We all know that. If you're right with God, if you're a follower of Christ, and you pass on, good things are ahead, is all I can say.
no more of the struggles of this.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about the pain. You don't have to worry about all that. It's better.
Prison at this time is so much worse.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you really did have to have the will to live at times to make it. And I think a lot of this is one of the, what did I just say, give up,
Yep.
and just let what happens, happens. If you don't have that will to live in some of those terrible environments where you're getting beat, you're getting starved, you don't even have much of a
Place to lay down.
Lay
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
You could just give up and die.
And that's true. That's the physical side of it. Yeah.
So then his choice is probably his strength of mind.
Yes.
But I want you to look at verse 24. Look at verse 24. Yet to remain on in the flesh is what? More necessary for your sake.
He sure loves people.
Why is he writing this letter? Why is he doing the things that he's doing? For the Christians, for the other brothers and sisters in Christ, for their sake, to let them be stronger in the faith, to draw them closer to Christ. That's what it is. That's what it is. Verse 25 now. Convinced of this, I know that I will remain and continue with you all for your progress and joy in the faith, so that your proud confidence in me may abound in Christ Jesus through my coming to you again. See, he's looking past those prison walls. He's looking at what I'm going to do when I get out. How many of us, when we're faced with some kind of trial in our life, it becomes a brick wall? It stops us. You have to remember, just like Colin was saying, the conditions he's in at this point, but he's looking past. He's looking past those walls. And I hope we can do that today. I hope we can do that today.
That's faith.
Yes. Yes. Verse 27 now. Only conduct yourselves in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ, so that whether I come and see you or remain absent, I will hear of you, and you are standing firm in one spirit and in one mind, striving together for the faith of the gospel, in no way alarmed by your opponents, which is a sign of destruction for them, but of salvation for you, and that too from God. Let me stop right there. When you hear that phrase, conduct yourselves in a worthy manner of the gospel of Christ, does anybody have any thoughts on that? What does that mean to you?
Keep on working.
Okay? Keep on working. Don't give up. Okay? What does it mean though when it says conduct yourselves? in a worthy manner. How are you living your life? How are you living your life? Is it something you can be proud of? Is it something that you would say, hey, I am living in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ? Or do you want to look at your life and say, I don't know. Not real sure about that. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see where we're at? He's wanting them to conduct yourselves. This is something that only you and I can do. Have you thought about that? How you conduct yourself is strictly up to you. Nobody else can determine that. Oh, there may be others.
In your thoughts.
Yes, yes, thoughts is plays into that.
I was just gonna say, my father told me when I turned, I guess when I was probably turned around 18, he said, you're you can be on your own now, you can do what you want to do. He said, but if I hear about it, he said, I'd like to be proud of it. And I think that's what Paul was saying. He says, I may not be around you, I may not get the opportunity to be around you, and see what you're doing, but I'd like to be
Proud of what I hear.
and know
Yeah.
that you're doing what God wants you to do.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. Because whether we want to think about it or not, just like we've talked about several times, you're an example. Good or bad. And however you live your life, you will be critiqued. Well, they go to church down there. They're supposed to be Christians, and he's doing. You see what I'm saying? When you come across something like that, is that conduct worthy of the gospel? When you bring reproach upon the church, or reproach upon yourself. See what I'm saying? It all boils down to how do we live our lives? And only you can change that. Only I can change how Phil Cantrell lives. Okay? Donna will tell me how to do it, but it's only still up to me. You see what I'm saying? That's what we need to think about. That's what we need to think about. But I think this is one thing right here that, I don't know, maybe it's just me thinking. But when he says, when it remain absent, I will hear of you, and that you are standing firm. Standing firm. That right there is something nobody wants to say today. Nobody wants to say. When you hear that term, standing firm, what comes to your mind? What comes to your mind when you hear that term? I think that's right. But you know, when it says standing firm in one spirit and with one mind, striving together for the faith of the gospel. When I read something like that, I think about being focused. Being truly focused on what you're supposed to be. My question to us today, are we truly focused on our Christian walk? I'm not asking for it. I'm just wanting you to think. Are we truly focused on our Christian walk today? I know we've got everything in the world coming in and trying to bother us, and we got this and that going. I understand that. But we're still supposed to be focused, because in verse 28 says, in no way alarmed by your opponents. You're going to have people causing you problems. I don't care what you do. I don't care who you are. You're going to have problems. And if you let that affect you, that's a sign of destruction for them. I mean, that right there can also inhibit your salvation if you let it. But he's wanting them to understand, but the salvation for you is from God. Everyone in here, you wouldn't be here today if you didn't want to go to heaven. Why waste your time if you didn't want to go to heaven? We all know that. That's what salvation is to us. Verse 29 now. For to you it has been granted for Christ's sake, not only to believe in him, but also to suffer for his sake, experiencing the same conflict which you saw in me, and now here to be in me. Now you think about that. Is he saying that being a Christian is going to be easy? No problems? Bed of roses? Did he say that? I want you to understand this. Has been for Christ's sake, not only to believe in him, but also to suffer for his sake. Expect it. Expect to have to suffer. Oh, I don't think we'll have to be forced. I hope not. Faced with death, whether to choose to serve or not. You know, I hope we don't have to face that. But could we be faced with just a little sarcasm? Made fun of? Peer pressure to some extent? Yeah. Yeah.
If our loved ones are not living like Christ, it's sorrowful.
It is. It's painful that way. Yes. Because you know the end result, what it could be. Yeah. I understand.
Anymore in this day and age, you're also dealing with cancel culture, and if you stand up for what's right, you have a tendency to be afraid that someone's not going to like it, and you're not going to get a job, or you're not going to get this opportunity with someone. You're going to be cut off by friends and family and things like that.
That's true.
And that's the way our society's going.
But he's wanting him to understand, yeah, you're going to be faced with problems. But just remember, you saw it in me. I persevered through it. So can you.
And I think sometimes it's these little day-to-day things that honestly causes the most problem.
Oh, I think
If it's
so.
something huge, I mean, some major thing, we know, we kind of have the attitude that Paul does, if you've been a Christian for any amount of time and studied and know what's going on. But it's these little bitty things that happen every day that kind of eat at you, and if you're not careful, it'll wear away until you're doing something you never thought you would do.
I think
because
that's
it's
right.
just
I
tiny
think,
little,
yeah.
well, this is not too bad, so
Mhm.
I think I'm all right here. And then it just keeps going, and first thing you know, it's huge.
Exactly. Chapter 2. We've got a few minutes. We'll continue the thought. Therefore, if there is any encouragement in Christ, if there is any consolation of love, if there is any fellowship of the Spirit, if any affection and compassion, make my joy complete by being of the same mind, maintaining the same love, united in spirit, intent on one purpose. Let me stop right there because it continues on. If there is any encouragement in Christ, You think about that. What does that mean? Encouragement in Christ.
He gives you the strength.
It gives us the strength. No, we can make it through. We can do it. Don't everybody in here need that? Everyone in here needs the encouragement of Christ. Knowing that I can make it through.
You know, we got the Bible for encouragement, and we need to go to church every time.
That's one way to receive that encouragement. Be here with your brothers and sisters. They encourage you. I hope they do. That's one way. Reading the Scriptures. Praying to God. All those things play a part in this encouragement of Christ. And it's up to us, as our brothers and sisters, what about that kind word?
Hey, Phil, one more thing. We know God makes it easy on us. He tells us that if the ox is in the ditch, we can take off and not go to church to take care of something that has to be done, but then go next time.
It's true. But you know, those words of encouragement, that note, that card, phone call, little things like that, we think, oh, that's really not, yeah, it is. It helps. And it's one of those encouragements in Christ. Okay? Also, it says, if there's any consolation of love, what does that mean? What does that mean?
This love he's giving and that we're sharing has any value whatsoever.
There you go.
And I love his conclusion there, so I can't wait till you read it the second time.
Yeah.
Because he's really focusing on us being united. If all of this matters at all, let's be united.
Is that easy to do? You know, we read all these things, you know, the fellowship of the Spirit, okay? The affection and compassion, the joy complete of being of the same mind, maintaining the same love, united in spirit, intent on one purpose. Is that easy to do? You say, Bill, what are you talking about? Everybody in here got their own personality? Everybody in here got their own thinking? Their own opinion?
Well, it comes down to a choice.
There you go.
Every day.
There comes a time when we've got to put our opinion, our thoughts aside for that one purpose, being of the same mind. Being of the same mind. United in Christ. United in spirit and intent on one purpose. You know, if we all get to pushing on the same way, is there anything we can't do? No. No. Maintaining the same love. What do you think about when you hear that? Maintaining the same love. We all say, well, do you love some people? What does he mean? Maintaining the same love. The same love for Christ. The same love for your brother and sister. The same love for the gospel. What is he talking about?
All of the above.
All of the above. Okay? And I think this is one thing that Paul, you have to remember. What makes Paul's joy complete is all these things. Seeing his brothers and sisters in Christ doing these things. Seeing them do these things. Verse 3 now. Do nothing from selfishness or empty conceit, but with humility of mind. Regard one another as more important than yourself. Let me stop right there because we're just about out of time. Do nothing with selfishness and empty conceit.
Pride.
Pride would be involved in that, yes. Is that a problem today in our society? Everything is done. How many of us have said, well, there's usually a ulterior motive when someone's doing something? And then most likely that's true. But he's wanting them to understand here, do everything for Christ. Do it because of that love. Do it because of the joy that we just talked about, of the same mind. Do it because of those things instead of selfishness and empty the conceit. Instead of doing it for what I can get out of it. Because, I mean, we're faced with that in the world today. Everyone is usually, how's it going to benefit me? Oh, I'll help you, but what am I going to get out of it? You see what I'm saying? That's where the world is as a whole. And that's what we got to work against. We're going to stop right there, and we'll take up there next week. Thank you for your comments this morning.